on Instagram too. All right, so we're live. Amber, this is my
Hello.
this is gonna be the new gig, the two of us.
Yeah,
Huh?
I'm
I'm
excited.
really excited to have you on board.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, and most people probably don't realize that you've been a part of the Dog Gurus for a very long time.
A
So
long time. Yes.
what year did you start coaching?
2017, I think. We were the first, there were three of us, the very first coaches. And I think it was 2017. It might have been a little bit later, but not by much. So a long time ago, almost, was that 8 years ago?
Yeah.
7 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So definitely.
Yeah, I knew. I worked with Robin and Susan when it was Robin Bennett Consulting and Susan Briggs Consulting. Like they were two different businesses, and then they morphed together. So yeah,
very smart on their part.
Very smart on their part for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah, can't beat them, join them, right?
Right. When they were already kind of like doing some work together, and so there was some discussion, just some brainstorming around it, and it was like, this is like a no-brainer. You guys come together, it's like a superhero. So yeah, the Dog Gurus was birthed.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yes.
All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and get us started because
Awesome.
we got some people watching, and I think we're firing on all cylinders here. So hello, and thank you for joining the live today. I know everybody's busy, and so we really appreciate you taking the time to join us. So the Dog Gurus, if you don't know about the Dog Gurus, we are your trusted pet care business coaches who are passionate about helping pet care professionals create safe, thriving, and profitable facilities. Now, at the Dog Gurus, we are all about promoting safety first and positive always in everything that we do. So I'm Shantae Marquez, one of your Profit Network coaches, and with my fantastic colleague, Amber Burkhalter, who's also an OG coach, as we were just talking about. And together, we've worked with countless pet care business owners to help them achieve their goals and elevate their operations. So you guys probably know what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the event because we are almost there. We're less than 2 weeks away, but our Pet Business Growth Workshop, that's February 26th through the 28th in Fort Worth, Texas. And Amber, why don't you take a moment and just talk about one of your workshops or one of your presentations? I know you have a handful of things that you're going to be presenting. So which one do you want to sneak peek for the audience?
Probably the one around retaining your staff.
So
we're going to have a really exciting discussion around building. We're actually going to I'm going to take it from the beginning. So very beginning, where you find the person, interview the person, bring the person in, and then we're going to go all the way through how do we retain our employees. And so we're going to do some really fun discussion and strategy build on retaining employees and how you build a really solid retention program that you can roll out constantly. It's not just a one and done kind of thing, because we all know that employee churn is one of the biggest headaches of business ownership. It costs money, it costs time, it's challenging for your employees, challenging for your clients, challenging for everybody. So I'm excited about that one. That one's going to be a lot of fun.
That sounds awesome and very well needed because, we all know how challenging staffing is these days. So awesome. Okay, well, you heard it first from Amber. Go ahead and get your tickets. In a moment, I'll go ahead and put the link in the chat. If you haven't gotten your tickets, we still have some available. And Fort Worth, that's easy to get to. So, it'll be, I'm hoping actually, it's kind of been rainy and stormy.
Yeah, it's terrible here today too. It's been really nasty.
Like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, I was dreaming storm, like thunderstorms in my dreams, but it was like shaking the house. It was crazy. Wow. You know what? I think by the time that we have this event, it's going to be spring and it's going to be beautiful. And you guys,
it'll be beautiful.
Yeah, it'll be wonderful weather. All right. So today's topic is about games that your staff can play while they're managing group play. And I know that one of the challenging issues for many business owners is that, they get frustrated because they see that their staff maybe they're bored in the play groups or something. So they're not really engaging with the dogs or they're not really, maybe the group plays are chaotic and rambunctious. And there's actually a lot of things that you could do in leadership games that you can play and when you're managing group play. So we want to talk about that. And this is all stuff that we teach in our product, Pet Guru College. And that's a staff training system that you can actually purchase and have your staff learn these activities too. So Amber, what game do you want to talk about first?
Well, we can talk about the hula hoop game first. That's a fun game to play.
My staff love that one.
Yeah. Well, it's fun because, most of us, well, I don't know, I'm getting old. So when I was younger, everybody grew up with a hula hoop. I don't really think that that's commonplace that much anymore. The great thing about the hula hoop game is it requires a hula hoop, and that is it, which is really low cost. And generally speaking, right? Literally you can go to the dollar store and buy like 20 of them for, it's not really the dollar store anymore now. I think it's like the $1.50 store or whatever, but for $35 or whatever, you can bring home 20 hula hoops. And so it does a couple of things. Number one, it provides an enriching environment for the dogs because a lot of dogs have never seen a hula hoop. And so there are different things that you can do with the hula hoops. This particular game is about teaching dogs boundaries in regards to the handler's space, so that when you're in the yard, dogs will run up and maybe they jump on you or maybe they run into you, which can be dangerous too. But also we don't want to teach them habits that their owners don't want them learning while they're at play care. So the great thing about this game is it's fun for the dogs, it's fun for the staff, and all you need to do is take a hula hoop into the yard and have your staff stand in it. And it is about boundaries in that when a dog starts to come over the hula hoop, you just step towards them. You don't make any contact with the dog. It's almost like an invisible shield. So you just put pressure on them by stepping towards them and they'll back out of the hula hoop. And so what naturally starts to happen is the dogs see the hula hoop as a boundary on the ground and they'll stay outside of that hula hoop. Now, the nice long-term effect of this is they learned, oh, okay, the person in the yard has boundaries around them. There's an invisible circle around them and I don't need to run up and jump on them and knock them over. And you can then incorporate this into other games. So group sits would be the next thing that would come along. So not only do they stay out of the hula hoop, now they sit on the outside of the hula hoop. Now we would use hula hoops for a lot of different reasons. You can use all kinds of things for enrichment in the yard, but that was one of my favorites because it also made the staff safer. Because dogs who run up behind you, I don't know if you've seen it. We had it where dogs would run up behind somebody and accidentally hit them in the knee, and down they went. Yeah.
My dog did that to me yesterday. So
exactly, right? So yeah, that was one of my favorite games. And the other thing is that really new staff can do this. And it teaches your staff how to manage groups of dogs with just your space. So just putting pressure on the dog causes them, because dogs are very spatial, right? It causes them to back up. So it teaches your new staff and your existing staff how to use their body to control the environment around them. So that's probably my favorite one.
Yeah, and it really is interesting how you can play that. I mean, you could kind of practice this stepping towards the dog, and the dog will naturally, walk backwards, or you backing up, and the dog will naturally come to you, even without the hula hoop. It's really fun because it just kind of happens, and you're like, oh, okay, I got some new control here.
Yeah. I don't think we all realize, as you go along in this career, you will, but I don't really think people realize how aware of space dogs are naturally.
Very much.
And so it's very easy for you to all of a sudden realize, oh, like you said, this is a tool I have at my disposal. So now my team knows, oh, if I just step towards them, they'll back up, which then will naturally lead into other behaviors that you can do. And if I back up, they'll come towards me, which also leads into other natural behaviors that you can do that makes your yard calmer and safer.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So the next game that we can talk about is Recall, a recall game, like the name game. Did you guys play that?
We did do that. The cool thing was we did enrichment. And so we did individual recall work with dogs, and we would take that into the yard. So as a trainer, one of the best ways to teach a dog to come is to actually hide from them inside, like go behind the door or whatever. And so we would teach our team that if you just go, over there, so they're not paying attention to you, or maybe you just step out into the outside part of the yard and you call them, they'll all start running to you, and you can do recall games that way. Oh, I don't know if you had this experience, but we sometimes had the experience where we felt like dogs who came to play care didn't know their name.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So we talk about that with the owners when they were first going through tours. Like, here's what
Yes.
we request that you have these skills with your dogs. One of them was recall. They need to know their
Yeah.
name. The new dogs are like, a lot of times they wouldn't know their names.
It was hilarious. I mean, you would be like, foo-foo, and this dog would be looking around like, hey, somebody's being called over there. I don't know who they're looking for. And you're like, it's you. It's you. Your mom's here. Come on.
And then you
So,
talk to the parents and then you realize they're like, oh, well, we use this nickname or we use
yeah,
that nickname. You're like, oh, okay. So if I use
yeah, that makes sense. Right. They're not going to answer their actual name because you call them fill in the blank. Right. But the great thing about the recall game is that you can use it to keep dogs out of trouble too. And so if something is starting to get, if you're having a change in the yard, I know sometimes the dogs will get anxious. What's going on? Something's happening. So being able to say, hey, we're going to all go outside now and call all of your dogs outside with you, keeps your yard nice and calm, nice under control. And then for us, we had somebody who would come and get the dogs to go home every day. So if we were like, okay, let's go outside, we would go outside, and then we called him a runner. So our runner would say, hey, Rooster, we're ready to go. Now Rooster knows his name, and he comes, and it's just such a nice, controlled, calm environment. The dogs don't get stressed out. The handlers don't get stressed out.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a good one, and it was easy. It's a very easy game. Now I don't recommend everybody's facility is their facility, but we didn't use food when we had large groups of dogs.
Yeah, there was just too many variables to have to keep track of. So we did not use food either. I felt it was too dangerous. Yeah, so I agree with that. But again, like if that works for you because you have your, structure of your daycares, okay, for me, it did not. The liability of that was just too much and it stressed me out. So.
Well, yeah, it's a variable that their behavior can shift really quickly when you enter in, a group of dogs with something that they may find high value. Yeah. So the recall game was also an opportunity for our daycare counselors to really understand that you can reinforce dog behavior in different ways without having food as a part of it, petting them, calling their name, telling they're good dogs, using verbal reinforcement and physical reinforcement. So it also was a really great way for our staff to learn, I don't have to have a cookie, to treat the dog. I can treat the dog with, attention.
Yeah. And
or I get to go home if you call them, right? I get to go home. You say my name. That means if I come, I get to go see mom. Like, those are life rewards that you could also use. So,
yeah. Yeah. Okay, great. So, and I just want to remind everybody, like all of these games, also part of the benefit of your staff playing these games with the dogs, it helps, really decrease the arousal level in the group play. So they're more manageable and everybody's having a good time, So I just want to reinforce that as well. Another game is group sit. And you know what? I'll also say that these are all games, except for the hula hoop game, but that are part of our daycare games that we put on every year. Now we're in the middle of it. So people are in competitions right now. And to enter the game, it's closed now. We do it through the month of January and then we start the games in February. But you should be in a couple weeks, you'll see videos and stuff of closing ceremonies. It'll be fun. Yeah. But let's talk about
I used to love the daycare games. Our staff loved it. Staff loved it. We would divide our staff into teams. And so we would have like an internal competition. And whoever won the competition of the internal competition, we would do like lunch or, a night out for them or whatever. But it was fun. It broke up. The great thing about the daycare games is it creates a community with all the businesses in the country. Well, and I think it's just now, do we have international people now that are?
I have to look at the list.
I don't know if we do or not, but
she's the one that manages that. But I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we do have a lot of international clients. So that'd be pretty cool.
So it created like this really cool community, the people in Pennsylvania are doing it and the people in California are doing it. So I always really enjoyed it. And it just sort of broke things up for us and was a good way to revisit the foundation. Remember these games, remember how important they are. You remember why we teach them. I can't wait to see the closing ceremonies or the video around it. Always enjoyed that.
I'm excited. Yeah, so group sit, that's one of the games, and that's where you want to basically have, if there's a group of dogs, you want to have at least maybe 3 to 5 or 6 dogs sit all at the same time, and then the rest of them will start to do it too. But that really is the game. It's very simple, unless you probably explain it better than I can.
Well, it's interesting. You said when we had people come through, when you said with your facility, you would say, these are a list of skills that we need your dog to have. We were the same way. Like we need your dog to really understand. Sit would be great. Wait would be great. And their name. Enrichment helped a lot with that if they didn't know it, right? Our enrichment was able to sort of add that in. And we also had training services, so our trainers would teach it. But, the cool thing about group sit is there's a couple of theories around learning and how dogs learn. And most of us understand what learning theory and positive reinforcement, that type of thing is. There's also something called social learning. And a lot of us don't really, once you hear it, you're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. So the best way I can explain social learning is I had a German Shepherd in our home. It was my dog. She passed away around Thanksgiving, but she was here when my puppy came in, who's now 4. And he was a very quiet, sort of chill dog, but she was a German Shepherd. And so she was protective of the house. And if someone came to the door, she let us know someone was at the door. Relatively quickly after he came here and got to around 6 months old, he was no longer a quiet dog, right? She had taught him, this is what you do. And now she's gone and he still does it. Yeah. She didn't have a treat. She just taught him, and he taught by learning. So that's social learning. So as a group, they will learn from each other. So if you can get, 2, 3, 4, 5 dogs to sit, it's amazing to watch how the other dogs walk over and go, oh, is this what we're doing now? And they sit down.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very cool to watch. Some of my favorite pictures are of just group sits. Where like you look out and there's like 10 dogs like sitting, okay. And it reduces the arousal so much in the yard. It keeps the arousal levels nice and low. Yeah, as arousal or excitement gets up, you can run into some issues around that. So it's pretty easy just to start with your dogs that are going to do it. There's always 2 or 3 that you're like, that's my rock star. We had a dog named Butter. Butter was our rock star. He was rock solid. He always did everything we asked him to do. And we started with Butter. And I think the other dogs also knew that Butter was a rock star, because when he did it, they were like, oh, and they would walk around. What's Butter doing? Okay, we'll do what Butter's doing. So if you can do group sits, just think about, for us, and I know it's this way in a lot of facilities, go home time is very exciting.
Very
mom and dad
loud.
Pulled up, right? All the dogs, it's like 5 o'clock. They're all getting really excited. And for a lot of places, including our place, that time was a time that we had to be really cautious to make sure we had our dogs in low arousal because they were getting so fired up. And so we would have dogs sit. So if they're all in a group sit and you've done group recall with, Rooster, and you say, all right, Rooster, it's time to go home. And now you have a group sit and a dog that comes out of that sit and goes out the gate and goes out to see mom and dad, right? Such a great situation, so much safer. And the dog goes home calm. Mom and dad are like, oh, he's on, look how great he's doing. So group sits are one of those things that you could use all kinds of places. Yeah. Especially if something starts to go, if something starts to happen weird, if your yard starts to get a little out of control, or if I know we had a client, Dog Gurus had a client who had a dog that had a seizure in their yard. This has been a couple of years. Did not have a known seizure disorder. Turns out the dog did have a seizure disorder, but this was probably the first, or at least the first that anyone had seen. And he had a seizure in the yard. And if you've ever seen that, that can be a real destabilizing for a pack of dogs, for a dog to have a seizure. And the daycare counselor was able to have the dogs in a sit while he recalled them outside, had them sit, and then other people came in and picked up this puppy that was, or didn't pick him up, but got him out of the yard. And so, from a safety perspective, it was an incredibly useful tool.
Yeah. And, when your staff is out managing the play sessions, they really should be dividing up their time, going through different type of games. Some of them could be like these some of the time could be leadership time. Some of the time could be quiet time. And some of the time could be letting the dogs just, have fun and wrestle and do things like that. So really there is like a strategy to this. So your staff doesn't get bored, and they can use the time effectively, and the dogs will have a really, quality day of play. The next game that we could talk about, which I laugh because it was like, no matter what, the newest person on the staff, this would always happen. They go and we're like, hey, can you go grab that dog out of group play? And lo and behold, they, open up the gate and all the dogs.
I know what you're about to say.
Yeah.
Like 40 dogs come out.
And they're like, oh my God, and they're so embarrassed, and they're trying to like push the dog back to the play yard, and the dog runs back through. It's just back and forth, back and forth. So we recommend for you to do a boundary game, and that is really your staff. Practice this enough. You start out by opening the gate door just a little, and your body in between that, and having the dogs sit. If they start to, lean forward and walk towards you, you just lean towards them. So they naturally walk back, just like how we talked about hula hoop game, right?
Yep.
And eventually, if you practice this enough, you can have the whole gate open and all the dogs will just wait for your command to go through. And when the staff finally learns how to do that, they are just so proud, and they just feel like so accomplished. It's really a great skill for them to have. And when I would see them teach it to the newer staff, it just warmed my heart. It was awesome. But it's just a great skill to have. The little dogs, I would say, are harder than the big dogs.
They're smaller, so they just shoot, 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 shoot. And I swear those dogs knew when there was a new person doing it. I swear. Yeah. They were like, oh, this is that new guy. Hey, guys, we got a new guy. Come on, everybody up here. Yeah.
No, they totally know who they can do this to and who they can't. Absolutely. So.
Yeah, I used to love to walk by, and they would be, they'd have all the dogs sitting, and the door we would have the gate to the yard open, and I would walk by and look over, and they would have them all sitting, and they would be so proud. Like, look, I got it under control. Look how good they're doing, because the gate is one of those areas where you can have some issues. So it really helps from a safety perspective, that narrowing every time you narrow something. But yeah, that's one of my favorites too. And the hula hoop game is basically the gate game, the boundary game with a hula hoop in the yard.
Yep, exactly. So they all work together. Very easy to teach your staff, very easy to practice.
Yes.
So if you want help with teaching your staff some of these games, we have a solution for you. That is Pet Guru College. That I mentioned that when we first started talking about that, but it is our staff training system, and it's role-specific training. So, there's 5 different roles in there that are, client care counselor, lodging counselor, daycare counselor, enrichment counselor. So if you want help with teaching some of these, dog handling skills and pet health and communication skills and equipment safety and all that, this is a great product for you to look into. We do demos of it all the time. Just go to our website and you can set up a call, and we're happy to do a demo for you. But I'll put the link in the chat here. Yeah. And then I think we're almost time. So Amber, you have anything else that you want to chat about as far as games go? Did we cover them all? Is there anything that we missed?
Not that I can think of right off the top of my head. You can always with the games, you can always put your little twist or your little spin on them, and you can do it with multiple staff members. One of the things that I really enjoyed was when we'd have a new person come in and they would be training in the play yards, and the staff member would say, okay, we're going to do the hula hoop game, or we're going to do group sits. And people were always blown away by, oh my gosh, you got all these dogs to sit down? Like they couldn't believe it, right? And one thing I will say, you mentioned the monotony, the job can be sometimes a little monotonous. I mean, we just all know that. And we all know that when our staff gets bored, what do? Unfortunately, a lot of them will pull a phone out of their pocket, right? And I mean, there's only so much you can do to combat that. And there's things you can't do, but when that happens, they're not watching the dogs because you can't multitask that way. So this is a really great way to break up the day. and keep them from being, disengaged or bored. And you can create a schedule around it. We used to do okay, 3:00, hello, boundaries. And everybody who had a group of dogs would stop whatever was going on, be like, all right, let's do boundaries. And they would all do it. So it just kind of kept the flow nice and choppy. So people weren't just like, I've been standing here for an hour staring at the same dogs, I'm going to get on Snapchat or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Especially those full-time employees. I mean,
Yes.
doing a day in 5 days a week. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
So give them some stuff to work with.
Yep.
I even made a little pie chart and I put it like on the wall in the play yards to remind them of like, okay,
what was on the pie chart?
It was like activities they could do.
Okay. All right.
Like quiet time or like downtime, and then, activity 1, 2, or 3 kind of thing, just to remind them. I'm a very visual person. I need visual reminders to do everything.
I'm the same way. Give me a chart or a drawing, a picture of it before you give me a paper of it. Yeah. Well, and honestly, if you're in the play yards, you can't really stop and read. Like, you need a picture. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I like that.
All right. So I'm going to wrap this up here. We're coming to time. Last thing I will do is invite you to join our Facebook group, and that's Grow Your Pet Care Business. So the link is here in the chat. If you're not a part of the group, it's awesome. Join it. You're going to get a lot of feedback or just be a part of a community of really great people that are like-minded business owners. We just have 2 rules in that, and that's be nice. We always want everybody to be respectful and be nice. And the other rule is no selling. We want to keep it as a forum for us, like a think tank type forum. So, all right. And everybody have a wonderful day. And hopefully we will see you in less than 2 weeks at the Pet Business Growth Workshop in Fort Worth, Texas. All right.
See everybody there. Bye.